Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cordalicchio. Want to welcome you to the Destination Health Podcast. We have a very special guest on the podcast today. He's a friend of mine, and he is a local in Colts Neck, New Jersey, Brian Bott. Brian, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. We're gonna be talking about some health and fitness. Let me give you a little bit about Brian. He's the owner and founder of Aspire Fitness, personal training facility in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Specializes in helping busy professionals get their health and fitness back, which is extremely important. Today, I'm a busy professional, and it's very difficult to get workouts in. He's been featured on NBC Better, AskMen.com, SheFinds.com, and Uptiv.com. Holds certifications from Precision Nutrition, the world leader in habit-based coaching, as well as being a certified functional strength coach from Mike Boyle. And here's where we're going to go. Most importantly, he can help simplify all the noise and nonsense in the fitness industry and help you get on the right path to reach your goals. Brian, welcome today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good recap.
Yeah, I love it. So a lot of noise, a lot of nonsense that's out there. You and I, we discuss this from time to time. Let's start off right there. Tell me, noise and nonsense, what's going on in the health and fitness industry today?
The biggest thing I see is just that everyone wants to seem to have to draw a line in the sand about you have to be on one side or the other to be making progress. So, if you're not doing this diet or if you're not following this training program, then you got no chance of succeeding. Or even going, as you mentioned earlier when we were talking before this, like going to the line of, going over the line of name calling and getting into craziness of like, if you don't follow this, it gets, people will defend their nutrition more than they will their religion or their own like personal values. And
right.
I think there's so much, if the average person was to Google, how to get in shape or like how to lose weight, there's going to be 10 million hits on that. And right. You can find information right now to justify whatever you want to do. Like I could type in right now, why are apples bad for you? And I'm sure right. I can find an article that's going to describe some sort of small chemical that is in an apple that potentially could have harm to my metabolism and it's going to keep me from losing body fat. And now you have the average person just trying to clean up their nutrition. They're just trying to, make some steps in the right direction. And they're just overwhelmed with, is fruit good? Is it fruit bad? Can I eat at night? Can I not eat at night? Do I have to fast? If I'm not fasting, can I lose body fat? Like, what about ketogenic stuff? Is fat good? Is fat bad? So there's just right. There doesn't seem to be a good, basic, reasonable approach to eating and a reasonable approach to training to get people to their goals. Everything is way spread out on either end of the extreme, which we see amplified in other avenues right. of our culture and society right now. There doesn't seem to be an easy middle ground for most people to follow. So that's usually where I try to spend most of my time of getting people to think about, like, is one of the best ways I had it put is, what would this look like if it was easy?
Interesting. Because we were talking about this before we went on. We were saying that, it goes back and forth, right? You had 6-minute abs, and now people want to train 10 hours a day, like we said, for special forces. And you can't leave I'm not leaving my job. I can't spend 10 hours a day working out, although I like to. I'm going for my second degree black belt in Taekwondo. I like to spend 6 hours a day, and cut that in half the amount of time. But it just doesn't work that way. We were saying there are facilities that have one, maybe two pieces of equipment, and that's kind of the centerpiece. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get healthy. And it takes, minutes a day or minutes in a week to do this. So what is your approach when you have a client come to see you?
We always kind of try to start with, just like anybody else, if I called you and asked for directions, the first thing that you would ask me is, okay, where do you want to go? And the next question would be, all right, well, where are you at now? Right? I can't give someone directions if I don't know where they are. And I can't give them directions if I don't know where they would like to be headed. So, what that looks like in fitness is trying to understand exactly what it is that they're trying to accomplish, right? We work with we work with a lot of general fitness clients. And what I mean by that is they're not looking to compete in a sport. They're not looking to, get on stage as a bodybuilder or a figure competitor. And they're not looking to do, like you said, any special operations type training.
Right.
They're, quote unquote, normal people who work busy jobs or careers. They own their own business, or they're an executive at some level in what they're doing, or they manage a family. So they're looking to kind of improve their health in a reasonable way. So that's where we start. We try to figure out where they're at. Have they been into a gym before ever in their life? Have they done any strength training before? Do they have any injuries? Right? Like, not, we're principle based in what we do, not in our methods. Meaning that it's our job to coach the individual, not say, well, here's our really hard program that we created, and if you can't finish it, well, it must be your fault because you didn't follow it. Right? Anybody can roll the basketball out and hope LeBron James walks in and say, look, I'm a great basketball coach.
Right.
Elect the 99 other kids that came in and never got any better. Right. And you see that a lot in fitness. It's like, well, I'm just going to create something really, really hard, really challenging that most people can't finish, and then celebrate the 5 out of the 100 people that did the program and got good results because maybe they were more durable. Maybe they were up for the challenge. Maybe they had more experience. And they were ready to do something at that level. Whereas we're trying to figure out where this individual person who's right in front of us is, and how do we slowly start to move them over to the right of the spectrum of being more fit and being a little bit better with their health.
So what you're doing is you're putting together very individualized, personalized programs.
Yes.
Because not everybody's coming in a marathon runner, or not everybody's coming in, like you said, as a bodybuilder and so forth. So you have many different types of individuals that are coming in. It's just like in my nutrition practice. I mean, some people need to lose 20 pounds. We're working with somebody that was over 400 pounds and they want to be a firefighter. So, I mean, they have to lose a significant amount of weight. It's hundreds of pounds at that point. And so you have to make it all individualized. When you talk about the noise and the nonsense, what is the 1, 2, or 3 things that really get you as a fitness professional?
I would say really any of the dogmatic approaches to things, like any of the absolute, like, you can't eat after 7 o'clock, or, you see people vilifying using the small amount of truth of something to try and prove a bigger point. Like, you can't eat fruit because it has sugar in it and it's going to spike your insulin. And if your insulin's high, you can't lose body fat. Or that things like that are pretty, they're pretty negative to the average person when they first hear it, right? They're like, Here I am. I just went food shopping because, my grandma told me that, eating fruits and vegetables is good for me. And now here's this guy telling me if I eat a banana, like, my blood sugar is going to go through the roof and I'm going to die. Like, it's very hard when you have people, usually when people come into us, they've been through this 2 or 3 or 4 times. Right. And they've had it beaten into their head that they need to do these super intense workouts. They need to be, 100% on with their nutrition, or do this one approach. And this is the only way that this works. And here's why everything else is nonsense. And we try to teach people that, there's hundreds of ways to do this, but there's not many principles, right? If we want to get stronger, you got to lift progressively heavier weights, right? Now, it's relative to people. That could be body weight for somebody, or that could be them starting with even using assistance, like holding on to something and then progressing to not holding on to something. That's progressive. And you need to improve your nutrition. If we're looking at body comp change, those are the only 2 tools that you need, is some sort of resistance training and then some sort of reasonable nutrition plan that you can follow ongoingly. Because the biggest answer that we get from people is like, well, I know what works. This worked for me. And, the next question is like, oh, cool. Then why are we here? Like, if it worked, it worked for 4 weeks, or it worked for the amount of time that you could mentally white knuckle your way through it. But if you can't white knuckle your way through the next, 10, 15, 20 years of your life, and have that be sustainable.
Right.
So it's not as sexy as of a selling thing, right? People like
Right.
words or 6 weeks and 12 weeks that, it's not as, it doesn't have the good catchphrase and it's not as easy to market. But
Right.
we believe if we can be honest with people and try to describe like, a half a pound or a pound of weight loss per week is phenomenal progress. And people need to respect that. And they need to know that most of the people they see in these before and after pictures or things like that did something very, very extreme for a very, very small amount of time. And they probably don't look like that anymore. Right. One thing
Right.
I want to see is I'd want to see the before, the after picture, which is 16 weeks later or whatever time period. And then show me the 16 weeks after that. Right. That's the one I'm interested in. Or, getting people to understand that it's much harder to lose 5 pounds in a year than it is to lose 5 pounds in a month. Because
Yeah, you know what? And you're hitting on so many important points, because when I have a patient that comes in, I mean, we talk a pound and a half at the most per week is healthy weight loss. You don't want to have, some product allegedly that's going to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks or 50 pounds in 3 days. I mean, that's just insane at some point in time. So we always talk about that. And I do love the individuals that come in. I know what to do. I know, I have that written down and I have it circled multiple times, because you get that all the time. I know what to do. And then, the first question is, well, why are you here? But then when you delve into their lives, they're like, well, you know what? I know what to do, but I don't do it. Oh, okay. You don't know, you know what to do, but you don't do it. So tell me, what would you do if you would do it? And then they would give you something that kind of, no, it's not going to work that way. Right. Because having a cheeseburger from a diner at midnight every night is probably not going to be the best. I think we can all agree upon that, right? And then you're going to bed at 12:15 after you have a cheeseburger deluxe. It's just not so much that way. So what got you into health and fitness? What's your story?
Well, I graduated from Rutgers I have my degrees in exercise physiology, but I started out in biomedical engineering. I did that for a year or two, and then I didn't like always sitting behind the desk and doing that type of stuff. I was training some people on the side to make extra money once I got kind of certified and did things that way. And I just really enjoyed seeing people get better. It was a very tangible thing right in front of you. It wasn't this theoretical, like maybe this person, maybe this thing is working or sometime down the road. It was very easy to see, when people were, coming in and showing up and doing the work, that they were making progress and the difference that it made, in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think our job right now as fitness professionals is, I think at some point people do know what they need to do, right? They do know that they need to, do some sort of workout and that they need to eat a little bit better. But they don't believe that it will work for them, right? Because they've tried 100 times over. And to your point, they say, oh, I know what I need to do. And you're like, okay, well, tell me about that. And it's like, I just need to cut the carbs out. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, you've done that before then. Yeah. Okay. So did that work? Well, when I was doing it, and it's like, okay, well, if you can't sustain it for longer than 2 or 3 weeks, then there's really no point in doing it. You have to find something that you can reasonably do. And I always bring people back to that point. Like, trying to lose 5 pounds in a year is going to be much harder than doing it in 4 weeks. Because in 4 weeks, you could just, boil some chicken and vegetables and just like scarf it down and suffer through it. And then you'll get on the scale, you'll see the result and you say, oh, look, see, that works. And It's like, all right, like in those constraints of saying like, well, what's the best thing I can do to lose weight in 14 days?
Right.
But I think the mindset that we try to get people to focus on, or when I work with them individually, is that like the results are going to take time. There's no light switch, right? But in terms of the behavior patterns, like if you said like, well, how would the person that I want to be eat? How would the person that I want to be What's their sleep routine like? How is the person that I want to be? What's their training routine like that can start tomorrow, right? The behaviors that go into place, there's no restriction on when those things can begin. They can start at any time. You can start drinking your water right now. That doesn't mean you're going to scale tomorrow and have exactly what you want. But what I try to tell people is, if just like the lottery, right? If I could snap my fingers for you right now and you were whatever weight you wanted to be, whatever physique you wanted to be, if you didn't know how you got there, you would lose it just as fast, right? It's the same people. If you don't have good financial habits and strategies to keep yourself, on a level course, if you win the lottery, then you're probably going to run out of it and buy things and not realize that there's taxes and be right back to where you started very quickly. It's not the fault of the lottery. It's just that you didn't have a belief structure or a structure in place to begin with to allow you to succeed. So that's where we really try to get people to all right, listen, the person that you want to be can start tomorrow. The 20 pounds, the 25 pounds, whatever the goal is, those are outcome-based things. And we'll check in on them periodically. But what you need to measure yourself and where your sense of achievement or how am I doing should become from your actions, right? Because there's going to be weeks that all your actions are perfect and maybe you don't see exactly the result that you want. And then there might be weeks where your actions are 100%, you see more than you thought you would get. You can't, if you know that, hey, I'm making progress here. I've clearly defined what my things that I'm focusing are and I'm watching them get better, then the other stuff will 100% happen. Right? Fat loss is not a mystery. It's just a problem.
Right. And what I find, these behavior patterns, it's difficult sometimes to change somebody on some type of behavior pattern. Because listen, you can be a special ops guy, right? And I did a podcast with one, and he has a sleep product. Because if you don't sleep well, right, and if you're not drinking your water, no matter how much you work out during the course of the day, no matter how much your macros are in line, you may not lose any weight. You may start gaining weight. So I like this because you're approaching health and fitness from many different avenues. It's just not coming in and saying, all right, let's do some bench pressing or let's do some, lat pull downs and so forth and so on. So there's this whole program that you're talking with, with individuals. Now, do you use a body comp machine?
Yeah, we use the Inbody.
Tell me, do you like the Inbody? Because I use the Inbody. There's the Fit 3D out there. There's the Inbody, and there's Tanita that makes a couple of them. What makes you like the Inbody? I like the Inbody. I like the 570 myself. Yeah,
that's the one that we have, and the reason that we use that is that it's like I tell people right from the get. I don't know that this is 100% the exact body fat percentage that you are. But I know if you get on it 10 times right now under the same conditions, we're gonna get accuracy, and that's all. If we're trying to measure progress, all we need is consistency, rather not accuracy, right? So I know if consistently under the same conditions, like you can't come right from lunch one day and get on there, and then the next time do it in the morning when all you have is a cup of coffee. So we have people. We try to. A majority of the people will come in the morning before they've had. We tell them to hydrate the day before and water in the morning, but we try to, if at all possible, to have them come in the morning on an empty stomach, not because that makes it more right or wrong. It's just that we have some sort of standard, right? We don't want to do one of them in the morning at 6 a.m. and then do the second one at 9 o'clock at night after a full day of eating and then be confused as to why the weight or the muscle mass and things like that is the way it is. But especially for our female clients, it's extremely powerful because we have some of our female clients who their weight kind of tracks. So if you're not familiar with it, just kind of plots it across a graph. Their weight you see like 1 or 2 pounds up, 1 or 2 pounds down, 1 or 2 pounds down. But their body fat percentage you can see is like steady drop, steady drop. So they can see like, all right, like I am actually making progress. I am adding some muscle. So by definition, then I'm holding a little bit more water. So the scale weight isn't going to be 100% the only picture of what we're making progress on.
It's not the most important parameter at that point. And I think that, and I think, for our audience today, losing weight, you want to lose fat. You want to lose percent body fat. That's what you want. You want to lose
Absolutely.
percent body fat. You want to increase lean muscle mass, and you're a better fat burning machine at that particular point. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's why, I mean, when we kind of rank it for people, like the hierarchy of fat loss, right? What are we focusing on here? Number one is nutrition, right? There's no amount of exercise, working out, strength training, pills, lotions, creams, whatever, that if you're not going to get yourself into a slight calorie deficit, that your body is going to say, okay, it's okay to get rid of this body fat, right? And then secondarily to that is going to be some sort of organized resistance training, right? Because your body's not going to build muscle unless it feels like it has to. So I think that's kind of the jump off point for some people. A lot of people are thinking like, well, I don't want to get like crazy big, or I don't want to get too bulky. And like, I think a lot of fitness professionals do themselves a disservice, and like they kind of discount that right away. They're like, oh, well, that could never happen. It's like, well, they didn't get that fear out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. They've seen somebody at some point and thought to themselves, I don't want to look like that person. Now, whether it's right or wrong, who knows? But like, the bottom line is they're coming in to hire us as a coach. So you can't just say like, oh, that could never happen, right? Because there's plenty of natural drug-tested female bodybuilding shows that you can go to. It certainly could, and if now nutrition would look a lot different. The calories would be infinitely higher. The type of training would be a lot different. And then I think just explaining that to people can really put their mind at ease of like, okay, like I never want a client initially when we first have a consultation to feel like I'm just another person that's not listening to them, right? Like it's important for them to feel heard. Like they're not going to speak our language. They're not going to say hypertrophy. They're going to say tone, right? We know there's no scientific process of tone, but she doesn't know. Like this woman's coming in for help, you see a lot of people that they're so quick to try and let people know what they know, that they're not letting the person that's speaking to them know that they understand what they're asking for. Right.
Right. Sure.
And that's a hard thing to do, because I always flip it back to trainers. I'm like, if someone walked in right now with a check filled out with your name on it and said, I would like to get big and bulky, could you help me? Right. And it was for 10 grand. You'd be like, all right, let's go. So you can't have it both ways. You can't just play it off for the average person who asks, or and then for someone else say, okay, sure, I'm your guy.
Yeah, I think that's very important to mention. Now, let's pivot a little bit. Two tools you need to get started. You say here a food journal. I love getting a food journal. I teach evidence-based nutrition and pathophysiology of disease in a graduate nutrition program, and I always talk about food journal, food diary. Why is that important?
For this, I'll circle back to right where we started. I can't help you get to where you're going unless I know where you are, right? We don't dive into blood work or any of those things. We're looking at just general, can we get some good practices in with most people? Mm-hmm. So for us, it's really just trying to ascertain, hey, where is this person at? Do they even know, or are they even aware of what they're eating, right? Right. When we describe like habit change to people, we talk about there's 4 steps. There's, I'll use the simple words. There's, you're doing something wrong and you don't know it, right? That's level 1, right? The next step is you're doing something wrong, but now you know you're doing something wrong. The next is you're doing something right, but you have to think about it every time that you're doing it, right? And then finally, there's you do stuff right and you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's become habit. It's
just become a habit, and it's part of your life. I think it's a great educational tool for individuals that come in, because a lot of time, like you said, I don't know, but I think I had a patient yesterday and they said, oh, I eat 80% of the time clean. I said, okay, let's take a look at your food journal. Oh, geez. I was like, no, you're not eating 80, but you don't know what you don't know when it comes to that. And so now you gotta, now I say to them, I gotta blow it up now, because it is a situation where you're not eating well and it's not 80%.
Sure. And it's very important at that point too, to the only step at that point is not to skip right to expecting them to change it the next day. It's really just bringing awareness, right? Because we'll have
it's an educational tool.
Oh yeah, I eat a great breakfast every morning. I'm like, okay, tell me. It's like I have an English muffin, with a glass of orange juice, and a grapefruit, and one hard-boiled egg. And I'm like, oh, okay, like it's something to work from. But like, if your main source of calories for the meal is like, is orange juice, you know what I mean? Then that's gonna be, and in their mind, right? This is why like it's 100% clear that marketing works, right? Like, if we could get a bigger budget, I'm sure we could do a bigger job at penetrating some of the messaging. But like,
Right.
they believe in their mind that can get them to their goals. And then when you show them like, hey, all right, here's like, I ran the numbers for you, and this is how much protein you're taking in a day. Our goal for someone that has goals like you is, whatever, 85% of your body weight, like say, as a minimum, depending on what they're doing, right? That for you is, 120 grams. Like we've got 40 all day, right? So, and I try to explain to them at that point, like, that's great, because if you were doing it all right and we still weren't making progress, well, then I got to refer you out to someone. Then maybe there's something else going on.
There's something else that's going on at that point,
maybe
right?
There's something else metabolically outside of, I like to say outside of my pay grade that I got to refer to someone like you or something like that. Like I don't, we don't get into that, because if someone came in with a food log and for 6 weeks it was 95% compliant, like protein at each meal, fruit or vegetable at each meal, healthy fats, time in their starches, getting a post-workout shake, doing all those things, and we still weren't making progress, then we'd have to look elsewhere and see what else might be in the cards that they need to kind of straighten out.
Now tell me heart rate monitor, because you say that's another tool. Tell me what is a heart rate monitor and why is it important?
I think a lot of people, to our point earlier about only knowing the extremes, and I'm not here to knock any other fitness model or things like that, but like the idea is always like, you need to go 100% all out sprint to get benefit of this. You see the ebbs and flows of it, right? Just like we talked about before the pendulum. Before it was all low steady state aerobics. Like all you need to do is aerobics, and 70s aerobics. Like it's all you need to do. And now the pendulum swung all the way over to only high intensity interval training.
Right.
And I try to explain to people, I'm like, how much stress are you under? Okay, you're maybe your job stinks and you're going through whatever. People don't understand that the stress from doing 30 kettlebell swings and the stress from your boss yelling at you, like it's not like your body creates different hormones for that. Like the stress is stress. So if our stress level is here and the only way that we adapt and get better is from buffering that and recovering, well, maybe for you, right, your cardio needs to be at a lower rate, right? If we use like a Maffetone's number, like the number that we give people in the beginning, or that are at this is like 180 minus their age. So, hey, stay between 160 and 180 minus your age. For someone that's really fit, that's going to be probably pretty low. Like they're going to go out and they're going to like try to run and be like, oh, I'm at.
My resting heart rate is 50. So I gotta pump it up now to get to that, right?
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of different ways to use heart rate training for people to get to understand. But the way that we use it is to simply draw attention to what kind of shape are you really in. If going out and just going for a walk puts you in that heart rate range, then I don't need you to be doing sprints on the bike just yet, right? We should. I do believe in building up this aerobic base. Can we get more mitochondria? Can we get do these things? The more research that we see, the importance of mitochondrial health, that doesn't come from highly acidic workouts and highly things where we're driving those type of adaptations. Now, those adaptations are important as well. It's important to, if you want to get stronger or if you want to get faster, we need to do those things as well. Right. But we need to separate, fitness and health, right? They're not always the same. Getting tackled every Sunday for your entire life is not healthy, but they're not fit, right? Like there's a difference. So I think, most people would be better served to you're using your body as a gauge of what you should be doing rather than an arbitrary guess, right? You follow somebody on Instagram who said you should do a 90-second sprint at this incline on the treadmill. I don't maybe for some person, like if you think about it, if you use that system, inevitably you're failing 66% of anybody that uses it.
Mhm.
right? For 33%, it's going to be too hard. For 33%, it's going to be too easy. And then only the 33% in the middle is it going to be effective, or what
Right.
you're trying to get out of it, right? So the good thing about the heart rate monitor is you can see, hey, last time I kept my heart rate where these guys told me to keep it, and in 30 minutes I could only walk a mile.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now we have data, right? And then
Right.
I kept going out, and I kept doing only 30 minutes and only at this heart rate. But hey, now I'm covering 2 miles. Now we know that your aerobic system, in one way or another, adapted and got better. You got more fit, right? Or however you want to, you got in better
Right.
shape, because we let your heart rate tell us how relatively hard you were working and measured what you were able to do. Because a
Right.
lot of people, and again, it can work for beginners. I'm not saying it's not a decent way to do it. They just
Right.
go, on Tuesday I went 1 mile, so on Thursday I'm going to go 2 miles, and then by Christmas I'll be doing 50 miles, I'll run a marathon. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Your body needs to adapt, and using your heart rate can let you know, are you getting better,
Mhm.
or are you just mentally tough and you're just like, well, I did a mile last time, so now I got to do a mile and a half. Now I got to do 2 miles. Now I got to do 3, instead of just saying like, all right, I'm going to do 30 minutes at this heart rate and see how well I do. And people are always amazed that, like, man, in the beginning, I wasn't really covering any kind of ground. And then when that stuff starts to improve, they're like, you know what, I'm sleeping better. And it's like, all right, well, I feel more recovered from my workouts. I don't feel so sore anymore. I notice, like, I don't have cravings for these other things. All these other things that we can see correlated to better aerobic fitness, mitochondrial density, and health, and building that up is where we start with people. And a lot of times what you notice, if you put a heart rate monitor on somebody, they're either working way too easy, like their lows or their highs are not high enough. They never actually get into the high heart rate that you want.
Right.
When you're asking them to recover, they're still muddling along because they're trying to finish some arbitrary goal, and they're like, their heart rate is like just above that anaerobic threshold. So they're kind of muddling along. They're not getting the benefits of it being high intensity, and they're not getting the benefits out of it being more aerobic. And now it's just calorie burning. It's not, we're not really improving any system at that point. We're muddling around in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important. Let's pivot again. Talk about supplements. What's your thoughts on supplements? Because you can't out supplement a bad diet, right? I mean, that's for sure. I always say that to my patients coming in. Talk about supplements.
Well, yeah, we try to remind people that they're called supplements for a reason. They're meant to supplement an existing program, right? They're not there to, they're not replacements.
Right.
So if you think that taking a multivitamin and a couple fish oils every day is going to outdo having pizza every night for dinner, it's just simply not going to be the case. The only again, because I'm such a believer in what people like you do in terms of, like, I'm a believer in science. Here's what I think. So we're going to try this, and then we're going to see what happens. Right. And, if we really want to see what anybody's doing, that's the process that you have to go through. So what I try to people across the people is, if they're not interested in maybe using services that can help with that, is, well, then let's use some things that are universally considered some good catch-alls, right? A good fish oil supplement, some vitamin D, depending on, how much exposure you get.
Right.
A multivitamin, a whey protein, because most people will have a hard time getting enough protein in if they don't have some sort of quick way to get it in. And that's basically it. The athletes I work with, 5 grams of creatine a day, right? Another extremely researched, safe supplement.
Right.
99.99% of people will get good benefits out of and have no issues for it. And I always tell people, listen, if you're going to get your blood work done, and I have nothing against your average MD, I'm like, just make sure that there's someone who understands what your goals are. There's a difference between passing, right? Passing can be 3 micrograms all the way to 300, right?
Yeah.
And you have 4, and you're like, oh, see, you're normal. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be 4 out of 400. So these are the things that people need to see, because a lot of times you could take a supplement and maybe you have an uptake problem, right? You could take as much of that as you want. If something else is missing, which needs to be, and I'm sure you could speak on this better than I can, but I like to try to keep it simple for people. If you need one part this and one part that, you could supplement with all of this parts. But if you're missing this one, you could take all of this you want, and you're not going to get any of the benefit of it. So unless you're going to do regular blood work, what we recommend is taking some ones that are generally considered to be good catch-alls. I think with the way fish oil is universally accepted right now, I think obviously in a few years, you're seeing even now people posting stuff about COVID and vitamin D levels. I think most people will start having recommended to them, supplementing with some sort of vitamin D as well, and that can have a huge range of what people might need to take.
Yeah, what we're finding out now is that those that are getting those who have been exposed to COVID and who manifest symptoms, their vitamin D levels are low, and that can be vitamin D can be an immune modulating type of a response. You mentioned COVID. I think it's so important to work out, to build your immune system. I mean, you're eating right, you're taking appropriate supplements, and you're also in fitness because it's so important to fight the COVID right now, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, without getting into any of the political sides of it, you're not seeing a ton of people that were in generally good shape having obviously it's not going to protect you against contracting it. But as far as what your body can, how can you handle inflammation in your body? How can your body offer stress, right? And if you haven't been exposing yourself to stress in these other ways very frequently, well, when you get something that's relatively new and novel, it can knock you out. And and having these systems running on, it's I try to use analogies with people into experiences that that they can relate to, right? If your air conditioning breaks, right, and the HVAC guy comes over and he pulls out your filter and there's like an animal in it, right? Because you haven't cleaned the thing out or switched it in 12 years, right? Like it wasn't the very last thing that got stuck in that thing that caused the problem. It was the accumulation of all of this wear and tear, or not taking care of things on a daily basis, not preparing yourself for something that could come up that's coming back to get you. Yes, that the virus or however is what ultimately is the major contributor that knocks you out, right? But it was all those other taps that you got that led up to the one final tap that pushed you over, and we're going to just on that last one, right? When it's incredibly frustrating that as a nation and from our government and leaders, that there's not a more of an emphasis on overall health and well-being and maintenance. I mean, the amount of money, and anything I'm guessing comes back to money, but the amount of money that insurance companies could literally save if there was more of an investment in a well-structured wellness program. Not even talking about fitness, like I don't care how fast you run 5 miles. I'm talking about just like
right. Whether you're a 5-minute miler or you're a 15-minute miler, it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, there was new research recently. I think it was actually a pretty good study, and it was over a large period of time where they looked at like total steps, and it was like if you cracked 10,000 as an average, like your life expectancy was much better. And then they even broke it down, and it was actually better that you didn't do those 10,000 steps very quickly, right? Like they wanted to see how you got those 10,000 steps. Like, did you have to be a runner? Did you have to be a marathoner to average 10,000? And when they split it down even further, they saw that like it was actually better if you weren't, like because there's a difference between health. A lot of gyms names, right? Or blank blank health and fitness. And it's like, okay, there's a reason it's health and fitness because they're different, right?
Right.
There's very clear indicators of health that have some gray lines, but for the most part we can agree, like certain body fat percentages, if we're over them, put us at more risk. It's not a personal judgment. It's not saying that you shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, well, no, it's just, I think that's universally accepted. So yeah, 100%. There's actually some healthcare facilities. I can't say, I can't say the specifics, but they are looking into health and fitness programs as opposed to, sick care. They're looking at well care right now, because what COVID brought about is that if you have hypertension, seems to be bad in this. Hypertension, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, respiratory condition, even asthma, hypertension, autoimmune types of conditions, hypertension and being overweight. Those comorbid features are the features that we're talking about. Those are the taps. And then the COVID knocks you out, and you start manifesting symptoms. You may see some larger organizations looking to try to help individuals more in the health and fitness arena so that they don't have to go through this, because a lot of the fatalities, and it's horrible what happened, have come with those people that have those comorbid features. I'm pushing 60 years old, and you can throw me into that category, and I want to make sure that I'm healthy. I have a 12-year-old. I want to be around.
Yeah.
I want to be around. I don't want to go away at any given time. So I think health and fitness, it goes hand in hand, and you should be out there exercising. I don't know, maybe I'm meeting you Saturday somewhere. We're going to go for a 10-mile run, or we're going to do some resistance training, Brian.
Yeah, we need to. I think, and where that communication breaks down is the understanding of how simple could a program like that look like and still beneficial, right? To reap those benefits, we've turned into, well, what do we do about this? Into a mystery, right? It's not that we're unsure about what people need to do to lower their blood pressure or get their insulin sensitivity better, or any of these other comorbidity fact. Like we know how to get someone's resting heart rate down. We know how to lower their blood pressure, right? We know how to do these things, and I'm sure for very specific individuals, maybe a medical or pharmaceutical intervention is necessary, right? I'm sure there's some populations that, the cards they were dealt, they need those things to keep those things in check. But the amount of people that rely on that stuff is incredibly too high, and they don't realize there's other benefits of the things that you would have to do to control that are going to help you, other than just modifying that number, right? It's an interesting thing, and I think people need to know that, hey, following a realistic strength training program that's realistic for you, right? It doesn't mean that you have to go right to a heavy back squat with a bar on your back, right? It's a training program that's appropriately challenging for you, done 2 to 3 times per week, and doing some cardiovascular sessions in those heart rates that we talk about, which I think for most people, they would appreciate what that lower intensity actually would be, can get the job done. Now, you get you 6-pack abs or whatever, but people look at it and they have a really hard time understanding. If the doctor says, hey, I need you to work out and eat better, and they're like, the last thing I saw about working out was some shredded person on a magazine. I can't do that. Or the last thing I heard about nutrition was my friend who was he's eating these keto balls. He's eating coconut oil with a spoon. I don't want to do that. They have no idea. We talk about things being on a continuum, right? We have I eat McDonald's every single day. And I only eat poached salmon and spinach, right? All we need to get people to do is all right, if you're here, how do we just start to slowly move you over into that, that direction? Not hey, flip it a switch tomorrow. You're doing this, and that's the only way that you're going to make progress. Cause they see these extremes and they're like, well, if I need to be jumping up on boxes and carrying things on my back to get in shape, well then, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm not doing that. You know,
Right.
instead of like working with someone who, it's not my job as a coach in someone's initial session to show them how hard this can be. Like, it's the opposite. I don't like, there's no worse feeling
I
than
understand what you're saying.
I'm so scared to go into this gym and to work with this
Right.
coach because the only thing I've ever seen on TV is The Biggest Loser, and they're like yelling at people and they're falling off the treadmill and like they're calling in the ambulance. Like,
Right.
like, oh my God, like if that's what I got to sign up for, like I'm safer right here in my house. You know, I'll never go. And then if they do go and it is anything like that experience, or if one day later they wake up and they absolutely cannot walk or move and they're in so much pain,
Right.
you know, they're going to be like, you know, it's a hard crossroads to get with people because you're trying to explain, you know, someone comes in to hire you as a coach and they're expecting like, you know, it's like going to see like some like Buddhist, like shaman type person, right? They're looking
Right.
for the answer and they want it to be like this complicated, well, here's what you're going to have to do. I need you to get 3 lemons, a clove of garlic, you know, a rosemary twig, and you're going to stand on one leg, and then you're going to do that, then you're going to be in shape. And like, they're like, all right, cool. Like, I'll pay for that. But if you're like, hey, like, I just need you to like get a couple walks in this week and like, let's drink some more water. They're like, that's it. That's the advice. And it's like, well, yeah, like it, again, I always going to try to bring back to what would this look like if it was easy? Like,
well, you want it to be sustainable.
sure.
You know, and you know what you're talking about is very important because when I get a patient in, I'll say to them, you know what, 3 to 4 times a week, walk 15 minutes out of your house and 15 minutes back. Let's start off with that because you're sedentary. Why are you going to go run 5 miles? You know, why are you going to go out and do a 10K today? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You know, if you're a patient that's had multiple heart attacks and, you know, it's being referred to me by somebody where they need to really change, quicker, you know, that's a different story. But, you know, can you drink 64 ounces of water in a day? You know, what are you drinking now? Oh, I'm not drinking any water. So let's start off with 3 or 4 glasses of water. You know, oh, I don't like water. Well, can you put a little lemon in there? Can you put a little lime in there? Can we start the process up? You know, and lo and behold, they'll lose a pound that week. You know, and in a month they've maybe lost 5 or 6 pounds, and they start feeling a little bit they feel a little bit better about themselves. And then you can add in more as time goes on so that, you know, like you said, it's a continuum. It's not a sprint, you know, it's a marathon. I think Bill Parcells said that in 1985.
It's important for people starting out to start like stacking up some wins, right?
Yes.
Like, you know, and starting to feel like, you know, it's hard for people to equate. They don't quite understand like, all right, I just told this guy that my goal is to lose 15 or 20 pounds. And like, all he wants me to do is drink water, right? They don't quite understand that. Like, all right, it's the purposeful intention of drawing you into just drinking water that almost reminds you like, hey, I am doing this thing to try and improve myself. Mm-hmm. If you have a habit like that you constantly are replaying through your mind throughout the day, the odds that you're going to be like, well, I'm really focused on this drinking this water. But let me grab 2 Pop-Tarts, right? Like, it's not the water per se, as much as it is like drinking the water helps you get in this mindset of like, all right, I am trying to improve my habits. I am trying to do, and then things that you didn't even talk about, they start doing. You're like, oh, you know what? Like I wasn't in the mood for that glass of wine at night, or I wasn't like, you know, I found that I wasn't like, I didn't have the urge to like snack on my kids' candy, or, you know, because I was just focused on this water, whatever. You know, so it's important to figure out when we talk to people about what they want to do, like, if they're not leaving the room saying like, yes, I can do that 5 out of 5, 100% I can do it. Well, then we gotta simplify it, you know, because anything
like
less.
You said, stacking of wins, especially, I mean, throughout, but especially in the beginning,
sure.
I think is important. I totally agree with that because you have to have those wins.
Yep.
Without those wins, you're just not going to do it. And one of my pet peeves is the alleged, you know, when somebody calls themselves, I'm an expert, I'm a world-renowned expert, I'm an industry expert, And then you see them at night, they're having scotch, they're having a bottle of wine, they're not practicing what they preach. That just bothers me. And after 30 plus years in practice, I've seen a ton of those types of people, come and go, oh, I'm the expert in this and I'm the expert in that. You know what? If you got to call yourself an expert, if you have to tell me you're an expert, you're not an expert at that point. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm certainly no expert. I just try to help people, realize the stupid stuff that they're doing, at least if they can really identify that this is what their goals are and help them move a little bit closer to that. I mean, I think the first thing that people need to understand about getting in shape is that you don't need to be an expert to do that, right? There's been people that have been getting in shape for hundreds of years, years
Right.
that didn't know what the heck they were doing, but they tried really hard and they showed up every day and they found some sort of routine where I'm sure if you studied it in a lab, you would find 10 different reasons why that's not the best way. Like, that's where people fail, right? They want to know, well, tell me what the best food is. What's the best? Like, all right, what if I told you it was like raw sardines? You gonna eat it?
Would
Like,
you eat that? Right.
like what what does it matter? Like what does it matter what the best is if such a thing even existed, right? Like,
And
why?
for everybody, it's different too. You could get into the food sensitivity test and so forth and so on. What food should you be eating? What food you should be avoiding? It's different for everybody.
Yep. Yeah. There's no best. Like the question, I think people just need to learn how to ask better questions. Like,
Right.
In my opinion, the better question would be like, hey, what's a better thing that I can have for breakfast that I'm having right now? Right.
Right. Right.
What's a better way I could be going about my strength training so that my knees don't hurt or my back doesn't hurt? Like,
Right.
that, because, all right, all Herschel Walker used to do was 1,000 sit-ups a day and sprint after a train. Like, do you want to, like, he was in great shape. Like, do you want to do that? Like, because your back would probably explode if you tried to do 5,000 sit-ups a day for him.
Oh, yeah, for him. Yeah.
For him, it was cool. Like, it's
And I'm sure he didn't do 5,000 the first time out, right?
Right.
I'm sure he didn't do that. We're almost coming up on our hour. I mean, this is an interesting conversation. I have a couple of more questions. You talk about motivation and community. Explain that.
I think the hardest thing for someone to do is try to be the only person in their world on the same journey as they are, right? Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is that if I work with a husband or a wife or the worst case is if it's a child and they're the only one who is right now focused on trying to get better, to eat better, or to be more active, I'm not saying nothing's impossible, but it's certainly much harder to do under those circumstances than it is if you're in a supportive environment. So sure, I do have a number of clients that work out at their house. They're self-starters. They're their own. They beat to their own drum. They don't need anybody to, David Goggins does not need, to get him up in the morning to run, right? But we don't want to base our philosophy and strategy off of the outliers, right? Like, I'm not basing my workout on what Herschel Walker did. Now, no one was in better shape or faster than that dude, right? But I'm not basing to have 100, 1,000 people do on these extremes.
Right.
And what I mean, so to circle back to the original question, is that the easiest way for someone to make progress is an environment where they don't feel like I'm the only one, right? Or I'm the only, I'm the only person in my house trying to lose weight. My kids just want to have pizza every night, and so does my husband or wife. So how the heck am I ever going to make this change? And sometimes it's a very difficult answer. Sometimes I tell them, like, it's going to have to be one of those really hard conversations. And it's I'm a big fan of the Stoic saying that the obstacle is the way. It means if you know that is the biggest problem, then it's the only way that you're going to make this work. So if you know the issue is there is no I got to figure out how to eat without affecting my husband or wife and their kids. I'm like, good luck. Like, you're trying to go around a big, huge tree in the road when what you need to do is cut through it and realize that if you can solve that problem, then everything else will come into place. So when in terms of community is like joining a gym or a place that where everybody is receiving coaching, everybody is in there, maybe not with the same goals as you, right? But they're all in there with the intention of getting better. For some people, that will be just getting stronger. They're not interested in losing body fat. They're already at a good body fat. Or it might be someone who's in ridiculously good shape, but they have this other extreme goal. But everybody here is working to try and improve themselves. And no one's going to look at a habit that you're trying to work on or do as silly or as not the norm, right? Like if everybody else there after their 5:30 a.m. workout is shaking up a shake and drinking it on their way home before they shower, you don't look like a weirdo anymore, right? Like, whereas like everybody else is, having Fruit Loops and, throwing something in the toaster oven for breakfast, and you're trying to mix up a shake, that can, even the most, focused, disciplined people, you won't even know that it's making you uncomfortable, right? It's not this thing you write down and be like, today I felt uncomfortable at breakfast. Like, it's just that if you don't feel like, all right, we're all on the same page here, it's hard to get more momentum going. So the faster you can find a lot of people that are trying to do the same thing as you and get around them as much as possible, business, whether it's fitness, whatever, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, I love that. All right, we're almost done here. So let me ask you a question. How can individuals contact you?
They can reach us at our website, which is just aspirefitnessnj.com. We're on Instagram as well at that handle, aspirefitnessnj. Or they can Google us and look us up. Number is 732-303-1416. That's the gym number. We post pretty much daily. We run a private group for people that are members, but you can certainly find us there. Happy to answer. If anybody has any follow-up questions to something that we talked about on here, you can post it in the comments when it's up, and I'll be sure to look back and answer them the best I can.
All right, that sounds great. Listen, I want to thank everybody for listening today. I recommend Brian. I recommend Aspire Fitness. So please, all of our listeners, give him a call. Great guy. He said he's not an expert. I would disagree with that, and I would say that he is an expert. And he has proven he's an expert, and he's humble about it, which makes him an expert in my very humble opinion. So, Brian, thank you very much for being on.
You got it. I thank you.
All right. So go to YouTube Suburban Wellness Group so you don't miss this or any other podcast that we have. And thank you again, Brian. Very nice that you came on, and we will talk to everybody soon. Take care now.